today, I briefly just, I'm sure that already you have, you know, my background, go full circle in entrepreneur, myself, an angel investor. I also mentor and coach and teach at the mostly engineering schools to bring the innovation and management together. And I also am an expert advisor for international organizations such as European Commission, United Nations, OECD, on bringing different stakeholders within the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the private sector, public sector, government, academia, and also different financial backers, from business angels, VCs, to private equity, and then seeing where the obstacles and certain problems are that we can try to find solutions for in specific regions and countries, and then recommend them to policymakers in order to improve policies and recommend them to ministries. So on the business angel side, I'm on the board of several angel networks, with the European Business Angel Network based in Brussels, the Nordic Female Business Angel Network in Helsinki, the Business Angel des Grandes Écoles in Paris, France. And I had helped set up one of the first angel networks in the Middle East, Temu in Bahrain, and which has now grown and partnered with 500 startups with Dave McClure, which they started the Falcon 500 for basically Series A funding. So it's been interesting to see how it's developed since a couple years ago, when there was hardly any angel networks existing in the Middle East region. So today we were going to go over I think it's stuck there. Seems stuck, the slides. Okay. To start with the elevator pitch. So I'm going to ask some of you some questions. So I'd like you to be interactive, because as you know, with a lot of the webinars and us having to do things from a distance, it's hard to kind of engage as we do when we're in person. So I'm looking forward to some of you speaking up, because I think we have a good group here where we can have more exchanges. So the elevator pitch. So why the elevator pitch? Why have a pitch in 1 minute? Why, I mean, why describe yourself in 60 seconds? What do you feel is the objective of an elevator pitch? Because most important is, when you know the objective of an elevator pitch, this is what helps you to be more compelling, concise, and to be able to really communicate well your ask. So is there anybody, any of the participants?
I don't mind. I think it's the idea is to grab the attention, right, of the audience. And I think it's also to be able to synthesize your idea very briefly, because also the attention is normally very short. And if you don't catch it very quickly, then it's gone.
Yes, so you're saying to gather interest, to arouse curiosity. Right. Anybody else?
Maima, I think that you would like to ask something. Oh, Maima, we cannot hear you.
Yes. Hello. I think the 60 minutes elevator pitch, sorry, 60 seconds, it's because when the observer or when the angel investor knows that you can spot on the USPs and who you are and what you want to do in 60 minutes, or sorry, in 60 seconds, he feel 60 minutes would be great. In 60 seconds, you feel like that you're confident and targeting things to the point of what you want to do. And it's like simply and easily transfers from one side to another in a short time.
Right. So both of you, I was it, I'm sorry, you're the first person who, and what was your name?
Yeah, Marilo.
Marilo, right. And
Yeah.
you are,
So
Umayma.
okay. Is that, yes, to gather interest, to make sure you're compelling, to, advertise yourself. But most important, as I was saying, knowing the objective, it's not just gathering interest, because you can gather interest and arouse curiosity, but then there's nothing after. So you can have a lot of investors that I don't know if you've been in some of these pitch events where you have investors say, oh, that's really interesting. Oh, yes, that's interesting project company, but then it doesn't
Yes,
go
yes.
any further. And
Yes,
it's a
and
polite
like
way of
sometimes I
actually
always
saying
wonder
that.
why they are very interested and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
And actually, that is actually a something that I like to tell entrepreneurs is a little bit of a red flag, because by just saying, oh, yes, it's very interesting, it's basically a polite way of not wanting to go further in discussion, meaning that you actually did not motivate your audience to act. And that is what the objective of an elevator pitch is, to motivate your audience to act. So it's if you're pitching that 1 minute, it's wanting to make sure that your target audience, whether it's a shareholder, investor, client, media, strategic partner, someone to join your team, that that person is going to want to get in contact with you, whether exchange contact information for a next meeting, to go further into discussion. This is to have lunch. If you're at a pitching event, that they want to meet with you to a one-on-one meeting so that they can further discuss. So remember that it's not just arousing interest, because you could have a lot of interest, but it doesn't mean that they're going to go any further. So motivate your audience to act. And it's also in your pitch to always remember what's in it for you, and what's in it for you, meaning the investor. So, ROI, what are, why, compared to a business angel, for example, like me, it's not just the return on investment, but for me also is that if it's in impact investing, if it's making a social impact, an environmental impact, educational impact, I want to know actually the metrics of if you actually really are making, let's say, an impact on health, and you're helping rural villages in Africa as something extra that your company is doing, where you're not just making a profit, but you're also enhancing impact in specific, let's say, areas, rural areas. How can I know that? How can I receive metrics so I can see that in 3 years you'll be making a difference in these rural villages? So this is where you have to know also your target audience, because if you're targeting impact investors, they're going to be looking for, and now impact investors are a lot more picky in the sense that, they want to see some metrics. So especially impact investing, and if your project has a social impact side, you want to make sure you have a slide on the metrics. Just as much as you have on your revenue streams. So this is where your target audience becomes important, of knowing, are they impact investors? Are they sector specific? Is it a business angel, a VC? Because each audience, a business angel will be looking at different things compared to a VC, and VCs are more bottom line. Bank, they want payback, and business angels, for me, it's also not just getting a return, but it's also being engaged with the team and being able to make a change in the world. Now we want to see, normally, in order to have like a concise, compelling pitch in 1 minute, is that you want to make sure you have the right elements. And the most easiest is your 5 W's. So can someone tell me what they think are the 5 W's, the 5 main elements in an elevator pitch?
what?
Yes. I thought you were asking me what. Yes, what?
When, where?
Yeah.
Probably why.
Why? Why?
Yes. And don't forget the most important. And
When?
actually, you do have entrepreneurs to this day. I've been to so many pitching events. I know Taryn probably has noticed this too in Tech Tour, the European Commission, or not, that sometimes this one W you're missing actually is what they miss in their presentations.
The who. When?
Who?
Exactly, the who,
Who.
you know, because for us, it's, you know, who are we investing in? It's the team. And we're investing in the jockey, not the horse. And some tend to feel that if someone asks, are we investing in the jockey or the horse? Many will say the horse. But the horse, you can have a really high performing, you know, thoroughbred and other jockeys can have pretty good horses too. But actually, when you're getting to the finishing line, what is the strategy that jockey is using to be able to accelerate the rapidity, you know, the acceleration of the horse in order to make it the number one? So this is where we are investing in the team. Are you able to execute what the actions and the milestones that you are planning to do within your company? So who's behind the idea? What is the idea? Where? How long? Where's the market opportunity? When? How long is it going to take to get there? How long is it going to take to get there? When are you going to get to the finishing line? Which is important, which I'll be discussing to you later. The milestones is that it's important not only the traction, but it's also the financial milestones. It's your milestones on what you've done with your company up into the present and even future. And then the financial is your financial history, your present and future. And just to say quickly is that the mistake that many startups and even scale-ups, and especially scale-ups when they're looking for scale-up Series A, this is where it becomes very important what the Series B or C could be. Sometimes entrepreneurs are afraid to mention the next rounds of financing in their financial milestones during their pitches, because they think it could scare away the investors, knowing that they will need more investment later. But actually, this helps us to understand the vision. It helps us to understand that you understand where your company's going, how you're developing it, and that the money and the usage of funds you'll be using from, let's say, the angel investor, is that in a year and a half, when you're looking for Series A and you're looking for 1.5 million to 3 million, and how you'll be using that in that round of financing when you've had a specific traction. This is that helps us give more credibility to your project and more confidence for us to know that you know where you're going and where you feel that this company can get into the next stages. So but basically also, like, out of the, as I said, okay, who, the team, but out of the who, what, where, when, and why is why so important?
Are you solving a real problem?
Yes.
I
And
think
that
also-
actually links in to the fact that when we're saying, like, why is why so important, is because why is basically your passion. So why is, like, you know, why did you even start this company? Why is this so important for you? And that why it's so important to us and why we need to sell on the why is because, you know, there's a lot of ups and downs within an entrepreneurial journey, and the lows can be pretty low. So if we can't see that, you know, this is something where, you know, you found a solution where it's not temporary, meaning investors don't want aspirin, they want morphine. They want to make sure that it is definitely sustainable. So so this is something that's important. And when we talk about a little bit about the storytelling, that's where the storytelling comes on the why. And I can tell you that sometimes entrepreneurs in the early stage, when they start, start going to pitching events, or they're starting to raise money for angel investing, even if they're going into a next round, is that sometimes because of how things are developing, and maybe sometimes your target market may actually be not exactly the target market that you thought was the main target, that actually you find out that there's a niche that's actually more interested in your products and services offered than actually what you initially set out, is that things can shift. But what's important is that as things are changing and developing, and your business model, which is the DNA of your company, which is most important, because again, to tell you quickly, okay, business plan and business model. Business plan, yes, it's very important. It's like your roadmap. It's a compass as you're moving and developing your company. But without a viable business model, the business plan is just a plan. And but it's the business model that is most important, because for example, when in my angel networks, we've had like at the time when there was not Uber and all of these VTCs, or these competitors to taxis, was that in France, all of a sudden we were having at our angel networks Le Cab, Private Chauffeur, Marcel. There were all of these different companies that were actually targeting the same market with the same solutions, etc. But it was actually, what was interesting us was the business model, because one business model they had for professionals and individuals, and their revenue streams actually were showing that in 3 years they were going to make 5 to 10 times more than these other companies that were targeting the same market and trying to solve the same problem. So in the end, it's really the business model and how you're making the money that makes the difference. And that's why also is that to make sure that you stay true to your vision and your mission, is that sometimes entrepreneurs can get actually sidetracked, and because also you get a lot of coaching, mentors, different points of view, and you're extracting and taking some points of view here and there, and restructuring a little bit about how you're developing the company. But sometimes but again, you're the entrepreneur and you know best, like you're the one who found a solution to the problem with this innovative product or service. So you have to always make sure you remember exactly why you even started, and is this in line with my vision, with my mission, and my objectives, because sometimes we could steer off and then it becomes very vague. I've seen when I've have done pitch coachings at business plan competitions, where sometimes I have to actually rework the business model in like SOS, because some have actually kind of sidetracked and it wasn't communicating and coming out well, when in fact they were going far away from the whole essence of why they even started. So when I asked, why did you start this company? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why is it so important? And when they started going back to ground zero, things started to make more sense. And I thought, well, that's not what you're doing. So that's something very important to always help you, to steer you along. So never forget the why. And even on entrepreneurs, I know that as they were looking for Series A, there were some that were using the storytelling and telling the story when they were getting angel funding. But then as they were moving to bigger VCs and for bigger money, the VCs were saying, knock out the storytelling. That's not important. It's about the bottom line. You've got the numbers. We want to show how you're going to be multiplying that and giving 20 times the return and where your exits are. And so they started pitching differently. But the thing was that when they were looking for that, scaling up and looking for that Series A, B money, is that it was getting difficult for them to get it, was because in fact, I even was asking, where did this idea even come from? I got very curious to even know where it originated from, to make sense of the importance of the reason of why they feel that this is an important solution to this problem. And as they were telling me, it made the whole project come full circle. And they realized themselves, yes, you know, we thought that it was less important, but in fact, no, it is important. And even for our future investors, they should be interested in wanting to know the origin because of the type of investors you want in your company. So also, I wanted to ask you too, is that when you're pitching, okay, and presenting, okay, and let's say, and you've used those 5 elements in your pitch, is it also about convincing? Are you pitching to convince investors? Is that what your main thing is too in your pitch? Even your 10-minute presentation?
Maima, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, you would say for that convincing is also very important.
Yes, well, I'm mainly pitching for 2 reasons. Either to get their interest to raise a round of funds, or to get their comments or criticism or anything for mentoring on if the pitch has something wrong, or if anything we need to fix.
Right.
These are the main 2 reasons.
Right. So that yes, that plays a part, but at the same time, remember, it's it's not the principle about trying to convince investors to invest, because if you're trying to convince, then why are you even there in the first place? You know, you got a good project, you know, you got a good company, you're looking for the right investment. It's also for you to know that it takes both sides. So you want to know that, are these investors a good fit for you too? So not only are you presenting and convincing investors, but you need to be convinced that they're the right fit for you. Now, why did I skip how? Obviously, it's not a W, but why did I skip how in the 1-minute elevator pitch? Why isn't it part of the 5 Ws?
Because it's not that important at the first moment. Then later on, maybe, but at first, the how is not relevant.
Yes, basically, how is too long. We don't. It's too long to explain how in 1 minute. So that's saved for your 5 to 10 minute presentation. So remember, because I know in the biotech and digital health, and even sometimes in the cybersecurity, deep tech, sometimes investors within their 1-minute pitch, they tend to get lost in the how without actually wanting to, because they feel, again, that they have to convince that this technology is good and all, but it's the wrong timing. Again, what's important to get that first initial is that, okay, who's on this team? What's the idea? Where's that marketing opportunity? What sets you apart from the competitors out there with your, secret sauce, and the why. Also, just to let you know too, is that when you're pitching within that, which I will be giving you a 1-minute pitch formula, and the formula is very, academic, in the sense that it's like even for a first grader. But I give this to my entrepreneurs plus my serial entrepreneurs. And the thing again is because it's fill in the blanks, and you are going to fill in like in the first grade, in the second grade school. But the thing is, it's giving you the right elements. And the thing is that once you do it simply, afterwards, you can add a little bit of the storytelling, you add the ask at the end, and you can fine tune certain parts of it, but it gives you the base. And many entrepreneurs who've sometimes got lost in their pitches, when I've put them back on that formula, they've, by actually going back to the basics and making it very simple and then building on that, the pitches have become very compelling and concise and communicated clearly. When you're also talking about your company, sometimes also in your pitch, you may in the beginning, depending on the type of your company or the product or service you're offering, is to start with a question or to mention the context. You know, for example, there are 20% of let's say 20% of children with ADD that in the United States, and this is why X, Y, and Z. You know, we've come with a solution. But what's important is not to speak in percentages. It's better in numbers, because again, like for me, I diversify my portfolios when I invest. So I invest in sport tech, food tech, digital health. With me, it's very much kind of love at first sight. There was a company that was also on urban beekeeping, and when I saw that this Italian guy, great grandfather was a beekeeper, his grandfather was a beekeeper, his father, and he's a beekeeper, and he was interested in seeing how do we save the bees and gathering data. And came up with this urban beehives that you can do in Paris, Madrid, on your balconies, where you don't even have to wear protective covering. And children can even watch how they're making the honey and stuff on their balcony. Is that when we say again the why, was that he was so passionate about the bees and saving the bees. And at the same time, his colleague, who was able to add the technology to the urban beehive, is that which was interesting, that he was able to group up with somebody on the techno side. Is that I got very interested. There was the innovation, and then also knowing that again on the why is that I know that he's going to stick to this and make sure it works because he wants to save the bees. And it goes by generation to generation on the whole beekeeping. So I know that his knowledge and intellect and the right people he put on the team can really make it happen. And I wasn't in the beginning all that knowledgeable about the bees and really, you know, what was happening to bees and how there's less and less. And I got very interested and intrigued. And then with the whole beehives, I had all these ideas about how they could market the different types of beehives. But it wasn't sector or something I was initially thinking of investing in. So this is important when I say, again, talking in numbers and percentages, is because if you're not familiar with the sector, saying that you're a percentage of something, it's hard for someone who may not be in that sector to understand. So better in numbers. Also, on the there's like 3 types of listeners to never forget. You have the visionary, the digital, and the hearing. And so what's important is to make sure that you're targeting these 3. You know, for visual, they need PowerPoint slides. They kind of need to see visual whiteboards, something to be able to process it. Someone else may be distracted by the presentation, but it's by listening. So the way that you're communicating well, your pitch becomes very important with the type of wordings you're using, because also if you make sure that you don't end up with a long laundry list of words or getting too techno, because like we always say, if you are going to, for example, even if it's a health tech company, your 3-year-old should be able to understand it. I always ask my son, does he understand what this company is about? And if he understands pretty well in simple terms what this company is doing, then I know that it's a good pitch or that it's presented well. Or your grandmother. And if they're confused or they can't understand, then you need to really work on your pitch. This really works. So if practice with your grandmother, practice with, you know, a younger brother or sister or not, it's important. Because I've had also, when I've do a lot with pitch coaching, like with Tech Tour in the digital health and life sciences, is that they can tend to get very technical about the product. And for me, it's more like, how are you going to be making money? I can see you have a solution to the problem, what is the business model? Do you have a good customer base? How are you differentiated compared to other competitors? This is the things that are important for me, because I know later in due diligence and with someone who's an expert that will be on the team to be able to explain more on the technology, that'll come later. But first, most important is to be able to know the basic main important points. Also, for example, yes, just to see if I know that you understand well, when I was saying the purpose of an elevator pitch is that, imagine a movie trailer. Normally a movie trailer is about 100, 120 seconds. And so when you're hearing these movie trailers before the movie at the cinema, when they're showing 2 or 3 movies that are coming out, what do you think the goal is of these movie trailers? What is their goal? Why are they, because it's kind of a pitch about their, the film coming out, like your pitch of your company. So what's their purpose and objective?
To create some excitement about what is coming.
Yes, again, but you see, arousing interest, curiosity, to gain excitement. But again, if
Make you want
people
more.
want to go.
Yes, okay. So you see, again, that's why I was saying it's important, so that you really understand what the objectives of a elevator pitch, because many feel that they understand what it means to pitch to a target audience of investors, and here are the elements, and, you know, do I have the right, do I have the right way of communicating? But in the end, again, if you don't have the purpose and objective clear, then you're always going to miss it by, you know, miss it, unfortunately. The goal is, okay, it's not just for those people in the movie theater. It's not just for you to decide that you want to go see the movie. It's all, they want you to leave the movie theater and go to your brother or your friend and say, hey, you know, the next movie, Taken 2, is coming out with Liam Neeson. Can you believe it? The sequel. This is really exciting. It's coming out in April. Oh, really? Oh, they really, that's great. Oh yeah, I love Liam Neeson or whatever. And then they go and tell someone else what else. So what they want to do is make sure that it's not only you, but you're telling as many people, and they're telling as many people, so that by the time Taken 2 comes out, they're going to have a full house. So that's what their objective is. It's not you, it's actually the people that and the people of those people that are coming, that is their main objective. Okay, so not to forget. And remember also is that I know that, like in Jordan, they're very good at communicating and doing really good pitches. And whenever there were Middle East business plan competitions, they're usually like the number 1, number 2, always winning, the Jordanians. But it's like in their DNA. But the thing that was interesting is that you get all excited about their pitch, their presentation and all. And then when actually you meet with them afterwards on one-to-one and want to go further, and you got these potential investors coming to sit down, they find out that they actually don't have a workable prototype, that actually all is marketing, and it's all vision and an idea, but they haven't actually put anything behind the idea. So they don't have any customers, and they don't have a clientele base. So everything is still in the idea stage. So you want to make sure that when you're pitching, that you definitely have a workable prototype. So before you start your pitching. And that's why also it's like in a movie trailer, you know, sometimes you hear about this movie coming out and then you go see the movie and you find out that it was the movie trailer that was the best. That was the best. All of the parts that they were showing about the movie, the only great parts was the parts in the movie trailer, and the rest of the movie wasn't any good. So you're like, why did I come to this movie? So it's a little bit like that with presentation. Make sure that you know that when you're pitching, that what you're pitching, that you will have all of the you know, a workable prototype. If you don't have clients yet, at least a letter of intent, with patents, where you are in the process, at least 3 members of a team. Now, when I say at least 3 members of a team, why do I say 3 in a team? Like, do you think that it's just something that in entrepreneurship, whether you're in an MBA program, an entrepreneurship program, an accelerator, or in some coaching program, that when they say, oh, it's good to have 3 in a team, that's just what's been decided as, you know, the way to succeed in a company, that you have 3? I mean, what is really the main reason why at least 3 on a team?
I guess it's to avoid that some decision is blocked when it's 1 against 1. The result is majority 2 against 1 for any contradiction.
Yes, and that's always a good answer. You know, meaning, yes, you know, always to have 1 that can mediate, or when there's 2 that are not exactly in agreement. But actually, the main reason is because the 3 is because you need 3 roles, and that's who makes the product, who sells the product, and then who collects. Collects meaning financing, managing. So a company for a good up to 3 years with those 3 people, the one who, you know, makes the product, the one who knows how to sell it, and the other that's managing and on the financing. These are the 3 roles that are the most important in the beginning of a company, and you can pretty much do quite a bit in the beginning stages. It's later, as you're getting angel investing money, and you're going to need to start adding more onto the team. But even with a team of 3, with those 3 roles, is that by having an advisory board, which is important, by having, you know, people that you know that are within the sector, or if you know, like the director, let's say in social media, the director in Facebook, what they might be part of the advisory board, that will also give you more credibility to your project, if it has something to do with social media training or not. The advisory board can actually be filling your management gap. So you may not have enough members on the team, but you can show that you do have some mentors and some advisors, or if you have a health tech company, a scientific council that has this expertise that can help you on a mentoring and support side until you get the right people on board. Okay, this elevator pitch formula, this I'll give to Taryn so that she can, you know, send to you, is like I said, it's very, you know, école primaire, very, but the thing is, this is what takes you to the simplicity of your pitch, and then you can expand on it. Just to give you an example too, is that, you know, I wanted to show. Here's, for example, as an example of an elevator pitch of a private equity company, is that, for example, seekingcapital.com is changing the future of private equity investing. Private equity is a 100 billion a year market with over 400,000 entrepreneurs aggressively seeking capital at any given time. Seekingcapital.com offers entrepreneurs and investors an efficient and uniquely interactive method for obtaining or investing capital in pre-IPO companies. Seekingcapital.com is not an internet-only company, but supports its online community with local franchise in the United States and internationally. Our team has decades of experience in the securities industry, investment banking, private equity, In executive management, my partner and I have worked together side by side for several years, co-managing and running the entire internet operations of a publicly traded brokerage firm. Our companies, such as XYZ Corporation and ABC Capital, have had much success. ABC Capital was recently valued at $550 million, despite several limitations. Seeking Capital isn't just a listing or matching service. We offer a community that breeds interaction, education, and discussion. We are anticipating this this round to be used for employee building, increased office space, and marketing. We have a compelling 2-page executive summary that I'd like to send to you. Can I get your address? So the thing is, they mentioned, what the company is, what type of industry, and what type of products and services they developed for what market and type of customers, and showing how they're solving the pain or problem using their unique technology, and the team behind it includes, these different team members. And unlike, one or two other competitors, we offer, this dramatic improvement. This is where our secret sauce is. And then that's where it's not here on the formula, because it depends what your ask is. If you're looking for investment, if you're looking for partnership, shareholder, an associate, that then depends on you. But I can tell you that even to half of the pitching events I've been to last week, I was on the jury of 4 different pitching events, and you've had a good 4th of them that forgot the ask. So they tell them about the company and what it does and why it's so great, and then they didn't give the ask. Like, what are they looking for? What do they want from us? So, it's like, okay, it's a nice company, but where does it go from there? And these are, people who've even had pitch coaching. So the thing is, there's, sometimes you can be so focused on different aspects of your company that when you forget specific elements most important. And that's why also I'll let you know that the 3 things, okay, that usually to this day in the Middle East, the Nordics, United States, Latin America, Africa, the thing in common, the 3 things that you still have most entrepreneurs forgetting is number 1, the competition. They tend to minimize the competition. And even in my pitch coaching, when I say you need a competitive matrix, you need to show a competitive grid, where are the differentiating factors? How are you different on the micro level? How are you positioned on the macro level? They say, yes, I'll make sure that I get to it. And then on the presentation, they still forget their competitive slide. And it's very important because, especially now, because for investors, missing the competition slide really feels that, it actually it's not like we feel that you may have forgotten or not. By not showing it's important and that it's in that pitch and in your presentation makes us wonder if you've done enough research on your competition, if you really do know where your secret sauce and differentiating factors are, or if you're still not so sure, for example, that you may not have direct competitors, but you could have indirect, but since you're not sure yet exactly what type of indirect competitors, you're afraid too much to mention specifics. But this comes out in the presentation. So competition, also team, and is that either they'll mention team very early in the presentation. Here you can see that it's after we discuss where the pairing, the problem, what is the technology you're offering, and the type of market and customers, and the type of company. Because some feel that, oh, well, okay, if team is so important, then we'll talk about us first. But the thing is, it takes away really from the impact in your pitch and presentation. By mentioning your team first, is that I don't know what your company is yet. I don't know where that real big pain is. I don't know what the solution you found for it, where your differentiating factors are compared to competitors. So you telling me who you are and what your team is doing, I'm not able to identify them and to see like where they fit within your company. So it just goes here and out here. By actually telling me about telling, which is, again, it's like telling a story in the right sequence. So your 10-minute pitch becomes very important. The sequence of your presentation is that by after knowing, okay, here's the problem, we have a solution for it. This is where our unique technology is. This is where our value proposition and where our and how we make money. This is where the marketing opportunity is. This is where we differentiate compared to competitors. That's when, after I'm interested in knowing, okay, I see that you do have a solution to the problem. I see where your value proposition is. I see where you differentiate compared to most competitors. I see where that USP is. I can see how you make money and with your business model. Well, now, yes, I'm interested to know who's capable of executing this, who's capable of making this happen. And so if it's really like a very techno in cybersecurity, see, then I'm going to be interested in knowing who has that background in cybersecurity for how many years or what. I'm able to know how to identify the team members with who. Also, just as I'm mentioning now with the pitch, is that with your team, it's very important also to you hear a lot now, that we're a very diversified, complementary team. We hear this a lot in presentations. I've advised my entrepreneurs actually to give traction and milestones for each team member. So, for example, let's say you have an app, and let's say the person in marketing and in sales was able to get the amount of users, from 0 and had 5 times more users, and then in 2 years was able to increase that by by 10. This is where it's interesting to show like what he's capable of doing and what he has done, what his history is, but then also present what he has been doing. So this is interesting to get this type of information about the different team members, especially if you just have 3 in the early stage, to see how much impact you're making presently. So I'm going to go just quickly here on your, as I was saying, on your business pitch, is that always clearly stating your pain and how your product addresses it, the credible venture concept, and how this can be turned into a viable business, with your business model. Again, I will tell you though that like some of you may have 5-minute presentations, 7-minute, 10. 5-7 minutes, you see a lot of these in many pitching events also, even in very high-tech companies. And what I've noticed also, where luckily before some of these events where they get coaching before, we're able to help those companies to perfect their pitches before they present to a jury of VCs. But many companies tend to talk a lot about the problem and the context, and they spend a lot of time on the problem, but at the time they talk about the solution and all the other elements going in with it and showing how this concept can be turned into a business and how do you make money. By the time they start getting to the important aspects of the project, there's almost time out. And so remember, again, when I'm telling you, that's why I wanted to be clear with you on what is the objective of a pitch, the purpose, and it's also again, it's not about overly convincing, because what happens is many entrepreneurs feel that they have to convince them there on the problem, that there's this real problem and we got a real good solution, and they tend to spend a lot of time in that area where actually half of the time I'm already convinced and I want to move on to the next and know more about it. But because they're still focusing on feeling that they want to really convince you that they've got this solution, it's really morphine, it's not just aspirin, it's not temporary, it's sustainable. What happens is sometimes even me, all my excitement starts to dilute. I get deflated because I'm just waiting, and I'm still listening about the problem and things, and we're not moving forward. So make sure you don't fall into that trap, because it's very important that you have the main elements for what your target audience. We're talking about investors. And just to also remind you again, when we're saying slides that tell a story, it's for example, we have a mission and a team that is taking us there. Why? We discovered a large problem and solved it with a product or service that has this amazing technology inside. We are going to market and sell it to these customers with these advantages over our competitors. In particular, we are working towards these milestones over the next few quarters. In conclusion, this financing is a great investment opportunity. So remember, again, you're telling a story as you're moving along. And so in your presentation, as I was saying, is that when you're giving the pain, problem, the solution, where your value proposition is, the market opportunity, where where you get most of the market share and the market size, competition. Again, it's very important to have a competitive grid. I like, for example, a competitive matrix, showing on the macro how you're positioned with the different players in the industry. And then a competitive grid, which shows more on the attributes, is that with 2 or 3 direct competitors or indirect, what are your main features, concerning price, specific technology, etc., that you have compared to others. And that way we can see very clearly, like, yes, okay, they had this, our price is the lowest, we have this technology, we're also online, offline, and these, they're not offline, but they're only online, they have this or that. But we can see very clearly and quickly in a presentation where the competition. But remember, again, you want to make sure you're very clear on your USP and your secret sauce, how you really differentiate, and make sure that that's very clear in your presentation, because usually that's where most entrepreneurs are poked. It's on the competition. And what's interesting is that when you have a few companies where actually they hit all the right elements and they did talk well about their team and the competition, usually we say that the more questions we get, it shows that they're interested. If we don't have that many questions, they must not be interested in the presentation. And that's true too. But at the same time, sometimes you get an entrepreneur that had all of the elements, and I mean, it was a damn good presentation. And actually, we didn't have any questions, in the sense that we knew that this was just a 5-minute presentation. It had everything we needed to know, the competition, this, that. So for us, we were just more interested, to meet with them afterwards to know more about the technology behind it and more of the specifics and details. So basically, their pitch did what it did. And that's why what's interesting is sometimes if I'm with other pitch coaches, I'll hear a pitch and I'll hear that the 1-minute pitch was concise, compelling. It had, it quantified well. It gave the good storytelling. It had the ask. I could see where the USP, it showed a good team behind it. And I remember, like, some coaches kind of still trying to look for something to poke, that, oh, maybe you could change this or not. And with me, I was saying, look, this is a great pitch, and I'm not going to say anything just to say something, because it was so fluid and so great that there's not anything to pick apart. And so, and that's where what is interesting is when, again, when these entrepreneurs actually brought in all of those elements and communicated it clearly. It's fluid, it's what we need to hear, and we move on to the next step. And that's why also there sometimes isn't any questions, not because we're not interested, but that actually they were answered in the presentation. So so don't let that worry you too, because it's not always meaning that the jury's not interested. I know that also, like if I'm on these type of competitions, you know, and sometimes when the jury has to ask questions afterwards, and again, you could have a presentation that's so good that you don't really need to further anything. You understood it clearly. And sometimes the jury members are trying to think of a question just because they don't want the entrepreneur to think that it wasn't a good pitch because they weren't asking questions. So you see, we get nervous ourselves, you know, when we want the best for entrepreneurs, you know, when we're sitting on those juries. I know sometimes I sweat and I'm thinking like, okay, what can I say? I don't want them to think that it wasn't a good presentation. They get stressed afterwards. So I try to think of some, you know, question to get some engagement going when sometimes it's quiet. So this is just to give you again, where I want to also, yes, when I've already talked about the first part of your presentation, you know, up to the competition, and then, you know, discussing your team. And why I was saying also, you know, at least make sure you have at least 3, you know, that are fulfilling that role in your company, with a good advisory board to fill in certain gaps that you're missing. Is that that's when afterwards we say, okay, well, we see that you got the right people behind. We can see that we have confidence that you could probably take it to the next stage. So now we want to know, is it feasible? You know, is this financially viable? Is this company feasible? And that's where the financial projections come into play. But in a 5 minutes, you know, financial projections, you know, having just a quick showing your cash flow, that says enough, because cash, as we always say, cash flow is king. Cash flow, it's bringing in all of the 3 anyway, from your income statement and your balance sheet and all. Cash flow is most important to us, because you could have a great revenue streams and good revenue sales turnover, but you could be red. And that's where we want to know where the burn rate is, and, you know, where the cash flow is, and to make sure that you'll be healthy. Again, the funding requirements also very important, because sometimes, again, you could end up sometimes spending so much time in the first half of your presentation, spending too much time in the introductory, that you didn't have time to talk about the funding requirements. And this is very important that when you're asking for investment, you know, for example, if someone says, okay, we'd like to give 10% of, you know, 100,000, the company, you see, for us, you know, it's kind of like at Shark Tank, you wonder how can they know pretty quickly, pretty much what the pre-money valuation is without really calculating. But just to give a ballpark, you know that basically you're saying that you're worth 1 million. And so by quickly just calculating in our head a little bit to get an idea, that's when we say 1 million. Okay, even if you don't mention it, but by giving us 10% equity, we're saying you're about at 1 million. So then that's when we say to ourselves, how can you justify you're worth 1 million at this point in time? And that's where it becomes important, you know, to show traction. And traction is to show that, you know, like, you know, when the company started, what, if you have any patents, what is the innovative side of your technology, what on the customer base, where your differentiation is. Are you like a first mover? Because that's where it's interesting to know how much time it would take for other competitors to get to you. Were you able to actually eat most of their market share? And then also to know, like, with your prototype, are you, you know, version 1, version 2? You see, these things are important. And to Taryn, how much time do you still give me, or like, when do they need to be off? Is Taryn there? Okay. So I need to speed up my webinar to keep you guys. So, but I wanted to know if Taryn was still there, was how much time I have left, is because I wanted to give you a quick story on, for example, one of my students in one of my entrepreneurship programs. Taryn?
Yeah, thank you.
How much time do you give me still, or do the participants still have?
It was 1 hour, but whatever, I mean.
Could I have, is 15 minutes more okay with you guys?
Yes, okay.
Yes?
Fantastic.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, great. So to tell the story is that I had two students, coming from Polytechnique, and they were taking part in one of my mini entrepreneurship programs, and they were doing a product on, it's called Print, P-R-Y-N-T. And it was basically like a case for your smartphone that you can print out photos instantly and share them with friends. And later they could do business cards, etc. And with this case, it's very small. So it's not like those bulky Polaroids that, and these other type of instant photo type cameras or phones or stuff that have like bulky attachments, very thin and easy to use. And so they were pitching to some investors, and some investors, like those who may know in France, the three super business angels, Xavier Niel, Simoncini, and Grandjean. They were interested and said that they would give 200,000 euro. So my students come to me and say, hey, Audra, look, it's really great. We did our pitch. We communicated clearly. Thanks a lot. Our elevator pitch went well. And we actually we asked, and we actually got the three super angels that are saying they're ready to put 200,000. And I said, oh, that's great. And things. So I said, for how much equity? And they said, 30%. And I said, oh, 30%. And I said, wow. I said, that's quite a lot for where you are. And they said, yeah, but these are the super business angels. They're known, internationally. They got a big network. They'll be able to put us in touch with the right people. They'll be able to help us with all their experience. And I said, yes, but you can't forget that they kind of spread their angel dust. They're investing in, dozens of companies. They're not going to be spending mentorship time, with you on it. And I said, it's not just that. I mean, it's great, but 30% of equity in when you're so early stage, because they didn't have their prototype, they didn't have a version 2 yet. They didn't even know who actually their potential customers were, not any clients yet, not sure again about the patents and how to protect. So you see, the reason they were asking for 30%, these super business angels, was because they knew that, okay, if they're going to invest, they're going to have to take the risk to make sure that they're going to be following through with the next steps. And so they're going to, that's what they're basically financing for all those missing competencies and missing steps. And so I told them that, look, it's up to you, but I think it's still early, because, if you have your version 2, if because you have a product that's kind of can be very trendy, going on Kickstarter and getting an idea of what type of customers will be interested, even geographically, who, whether it's from America, Germany, Asia, who are mostly interested in this product. This will give you, will be able to give you more traction, and then you can justify more your valuation and not have that much equity taken. But then again, I said, you guys, I'm just the coach and teacher, it's up to you. And they, and to my surprise, because, at the time they were 22, 23. And if I was in their shoes, I probably would have been like, oh, oh, Simoncini and Grandjean, and why not? This is I need to take the opportunity, and I might not be thinking completely with my head. And what was interesting was that they actually did a lot of thinking, and they came to me and said, you know what, we're not going to take it. And I was surprised with students, giving up 200,000, and they said that they're going to go to a hardware build it accelerator in Asia. They're going to go onto Kickstarter and do some campaigning to get an idea of who the potential clients are, and to work on other aspects of their company. And they went onto Kickstarter. And the thing that was very interesting with them was that they were going on to Kickstarter again, not to raise money, was to see who was actually interested in the product and where geographically. And in just a week and a half, they became the success story in France. Was that just in a week and a half, they ended up with 1.5 million during their campaigning in just 1.5 weeks. And I remember them coming and saying like, oh, wow, look, we have 1.5 million and we didn't even give up equity. And we actually see that there's a lot of people from the UK and the United States that are interested in our product. So that's when then they decided to shift how they were going to target their who their target market is, and also where they decided they wanted to go to the States, because also Berkeley was also in an exchange program with them, where in Silicon Valley they can get some help when starting to commercialize the product. So they went to the States, but by going through the right steps, by having the prototype. And that's why also, if you do end up going on a crowdfunding campaign, it's important to know that in your crowdfunding campaign is that normally when you're campaigning, you better know that your product will be ready, 6 months after that campaign. So again, you don't want to be pitching or campaigning, without having a workable prototype. That is something that's important to remember, because your backers are going to get impatient and wonder why it's taking so long, and you have to always keep in communication with your backers. That becomes very important. So that was like one of the stories that I wanted to share with you on one of the companies, and when coming to negotiating and deciding whether or not to take the investment or not. And so they were happy because they could move on to their first round of financing could be much higher, and with a good valuation. And this is where also, again, is that in the end of your presentation, it's important also to, I like usually when you say like, okay, what are the 10 reasons why you should invest in my company? And you leave that as your last slide, showing the team or why the product is so innovative, the other aspects of your company, because this is what will stay and set. But also know that like in your 1-minute pitch, I do know that in some events, they may say you can have a slide. And sometimes you have some entrepreneurs that feel that they try to put everything on that one slide during their 1-minute pitch. But what happens is you end up getting distracted reading those slides. You don't even hear their 1-minute pitch. Really, what's important is keep it sleek and just have the name of your company and your tagline, your slogan, and that's it for your as your slide for your 1-minute pitch, because that's always about being oral. And also, I don't know some of you, but I do know that recently when I was in some coaching and some programs before they were going to be pitching, is that now they actually, some entrepreneurs that actually they have themselves in kind of like 3D visual, kind of like an avatar that's on the presentation, where it's not live. It's actually, you have someone that's pitching, that's part of the presentation. And And it bothered me a little because, again, you see, even with COVID, with the offline, online, it becomes even more important online, that if we can have as much human contact, you know, even during a presentation, I prefer to see the person speaking and while giving the presentation, rather than have something that was already pre-recorded. It takes away from the impact, because it makes you even wonder, is that, okay, is it pre-recorded, but the person that's actually pitching isn't really the right one that actually is the anchor and the one piloting the company. So again, we're investing in you, and it becomes very important, especially during the where we're doing things remotely, so that, to feel that we have that connection. So let me see if I wanted to leave you, because I know that we've gone a little bit over time. Oh yeah, and just to leave you with also is that as you're funding, don't make the mistake in doing things serially. You need to do them in parallel, because sometimes as you're raising money, you start spending less time on marketing your company or doing sales. And so you could end up by the time, for example, that you're going through pitching and trying to raise money, you have to remember that raising money and going through a whole due diligence to the final investment, you know, can go up to 6 months, 3 to 4, you know, months to 6 months. So you need to make sure that you do things in parallel, and that you're still doing the selling, the marketing, you know, and all the other aspects of the business as you're raising funds. It's a parallel process. And to not forget also that when hiring, you know, we have a tendency where we tend to want to hire in our own image, you know, people that are more like us. But actually, it's important to hire those that are competent and a bit different, you know, from us, with the same vision and values, but different ways of doing things, you know, that are complementary and will help us in developing the business. And not to forget also that not to get obsessed with partners, because sometimes in some companies they think like, oh, if I don't have Ellie and Lily, this pharmaceutical group, my company is not going to be taken seriously as a health tech company. Or if I don't have Google or Facebook as a partner, that you know, my digital company is not going to be as credible as can be. Do not make it a focal point, because you know what's so important about bringing, you know, like two weaknesses together, to fill each other's weaknesses, you know, bringing, you know, each one's with their strengths. What's important is that you have a good company, and by having a partner that could add to it, okay, that's great to have a partner, but you shouldn't make it a focal point that without this partner you can't do business. And that's the same thing as with investment, is to remember some early stage companies or entrepreneurs, and it depends what countries they're from. And this is usually, I see more in Latin America, Africa, and parts of Middle East, is that when presenting and pitching, is that they think that, okay, if they're not going to get that angel investment, the company can't grow. They can't do anything. That here's our company, and you know, we can't get this workable prototype, or we can't do these next steps because we don't have money. But the thing is, when you're looking for angel investing, don't forget, you know, especially in your first round of financing, that basically you are looking for investment for because you want angel investors to help accelerate your business. It's basically you for investors, they want to know that, okay, your company can still develop and grow, but at a much slower pace. And actually, if we want you to be the first mover and to be ahead of the market and to be ahead of the competition and to really get out there on the market, with our investment, we know we could get you there faster. And so that's where it becomes interesting. So that is something not to forget, is that investment is to accelerate your business, to get you faster to where you want to go. But without the investment, you can still develop and do the things you need to do and get that traction, but it may be at a slower pace. Okay, because that's where also it becomes important that is understandable. And then at the same time, depending on what your company is, don't forget that, patents, like some feel that patents is your defensibility, and that it gives you that kind of big competitive edge. Also, you don't want to put too much importance on that, because you have to show that, even without a patent, where those USP and your differentiating factors are. The patent is the add-on, not to make it also so important, because at the same time, when you're it can be very important for drugs, patents more important, but at the same time, do you really think you can litigate against the big giants? And you want to spend more time on just making sure you're out there on the market and you're selling and etc. So if somebody has a question, or if someone wants to quickly give their 1-minute pitch before we close.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Audra. It's fascinating. All what you said, just amazing value. I have a unicorn with all that what you describe. It will be really quick. We have absolutely blue ocean solution in human rights, and from June it's mandatory in European Union. So it's sustainable exploitation standard and audit for corporate world and investors as a motivation for corporation to become sustainable. So we have a huge scope of things. So my question is about how serious it is for our kind of startup to get a trademark before talking to, let's say, venture capital.
I would say yes. I would say that again, you try to get as much traction as you possibly can. So the thing is, for example, I know that like some companies, especially in biotech and things, they still have like patents pending, but actually they show their whole IP strategy, and they're showing like where the process is, and they're showing where it's pending, and where they're and with time, how what their IP strategy is. And because it's so clear, and it's showing that they're in the process, and with who and what they're doing, that is enough for us to validate that, that you're going through the right steps.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're in discussion with 3 UN entities, including High Commission on Human Rights. So the validation is there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just really nobody have thought about it before, and I don't know how it happened. Yeah, so we aim to solve it.
Yeah, no, that's great. But that's why strategy becomes important. That's why also, even in the 10-minute blitz, is not to forget that, especially depending on what type of company you are, is that, whether trademark, patent, or not, it's important to mention where that strategy is so that that's also helping someone monetize,
right,
the value, which then helps with the pre-money valuation.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. And
Thanks
even,
a lot.
I hadn't mentioned, like at the end also here, but that's part of kind of the financial projections and funding requirements, is that, when we say that the previous and future milestones, is that, how much money have you put in, already? Because sometimes actually entrepreneurs, they forget actually to mention their love money, what incubators or accelerators, have invested in, they get to kind of just about the present, when in fact it's important the previous, so we can see how much, because it also makes it clear too, is one time I had a company that was asking for like 200,000, but they had like 350,000 in their love money and initial investment. So I was thinking 200,000 now, that's, I don't, where's the coherency? Like, why the 200,000? So then it becomes important to understand, you know, like maybe it's not enough, you know, for where they want to go.
Definitely, yeah. I can
And
see
also,
that.
you know, also with the future also too, is that, you know, okay, this is, you know, in the present, this is what we need and this is what we're going to use it for. But then also in a year and a half, we're going to be looking for 3 million and we'll be using it for, you know, X, Y, and Z. This helps, you know, with that vision and, you know, like your strategic vision, that finishing line. That becomes important because then we also can see, and that's where again is then when we say exit, yes, I mean, things can change, you know, 3 months after you tell the investor, you know, the way markets can shift or not, COVID, pandemic, you know, all these things. But what's important also is for us to know, like exit wise, you know, because later in due diligence and negotiations, like am I in line with you and where you want to go? Because some companies actually, they actually want to be local or just be the reference in France, but not anymore. And the investor actually sees that this company could make it big and they want to see them move into new markets and they want to see them go international and you know, become a global leader. And
we are global, completely, right from the start.
Just, you know, like thinking they just want to be the reference, you know, local. And so so where someone is interested to see where an exit is, you see that it's not coherent. And then and that's where it's important also to show, you know, like you thinking of growing, going into international markets, you know, IPO, you know, being bought, you know, having VCs come in, you know, what are the, you know, your vision and strategy. And that helps us to see also with everything you're doing now, if it even makes sense. Absolutely. That's why sometimes in due diligence, we usually say, talk about the valuation, the exit strategy first, before we even talk about all the other aspects, because again, it's more about making sure the vision of what you want and where you want the company to go is the same as what the investor is looking at and where he feels he can be of use, and at the same time of where he expects his return, because he could be thinking he wants 20 times more, you know, with where he imagines the company going, when actually the entrepreneur is, you know, not thinking, is thinking, you know, half of that.
Yeah, well, I actually had the opposite experience with moving startup from Sweden to Denmark and from Denmark to Netherlands, because Nordics think very local in terms of social impact, and we have a global solution. So there was no funding here. So that's totally the opposite. Yeah, some investors are also very local, and that's a problem.
Yeah, that's where it's also important. That's where we try to, like, even with the Nordic Female Business Angel Network, we try to be in contact with angel networks, you know, in Asia, in other parts of Europe, Africa, where, you know, with the Nordics to show, to already kind of give that torch, you know, a lending hand already to put them in contact when we know that they're ready to move into other markets, because of having to grow, it being, you know, too small.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Fantastic insights. I just need all that, right away. Thank you.
Audra, please, I have one question, if you don't mind. I just want you to give us a tip on how we briefly pitch investors on LinkedIn. So I send short message on LinkedIn profiles for the angel investor, introducing myself. Hello, I'm Umayma, co-founder for Todzi. We raised the one round of fund and we're looking for the second one, along with mentorship or connections. Please, if you're interested, let me tell you more about my product and how it's an integration of the AI and the human both together. Stay safe. I try to be very not pushy. However, I want to know if this message has something not attractive, or what on a tip that should I include in this message to be short yet to help me with more conversion of replies.
Yes, because you see, with what you're just telling me, you would end up in my recycle bin. why I'm saying
okay.
is because
I think so.
no, meaning that it's not that what you're saying. I mean, what you're saying is very good, you know, all the different elements. That's very good. You know, like if you were presenting, you know, at a pitching event and things, but we were talking about online, you know, like LinkedIn, you know, when it's when it's actually like a cold call, you don't even know really the person, is the fact that, you know, I get like 50 to 60 of these a day, you know, of the same thing you're telling me and everything. And you can only look at so much, you know, because now, you know, everybody's doing everything from a distance. I would, but you see, the ones that get me, that I look further, is that you need to find a link. I mean, you can obviously see the profile of who is on, you know, what they do, their backgrounds, etc. You know, also Google's very good to see, you know, like this angel, is it an active angel? Do they go to a lot of events or this, to get an idea? And find something that you can link up with that investor, you know? It's like, I had actually someone say, hey, I didn't realize you were, you know, an avid fencer in Flore. You know, I do Flore also. I'm coming from Italy. You know, I'm an entrepreneur myself too. And I see that you're involved in many different angel networks. I'm not so sure, you know, what your portfolio is, but I have this type company, and, you know, would it be of interest in your target audience? You see, but you see the opening, which is very important, is those first two lines, is that by creating a connection, you see, it got me reading, because it was kind of like, oh, you know, I'm a fencer, and like, oh, this one's a fencer, or what does that fencer do? And so I, you know, I ended up looking out of curiosity, you know, of the other aspects. So then it, you know, it got more like a personal, you see, and where it's not just, you know, because you have to remember too, many, you know, they have the perfect format, and then they're just sending them off. You know, and that's how investors feel, that they know also they're one of the bunch they're receiving. It feels very, you know, like you feel like you're just one of the pack, you know, of the day, you know, like on the list.
Impersonal.
Yes. And so if you really, that's why I was saying, you know, the storytelling, you know, you need to put in a little bit of the personal you with the personal of the investor, and to make that connection. And you see, by taking the time to do that, you see also the investor wants to take the time to respond to you, because you took the time to make that connection. You know, it wasn't just you know, a random you know, feeling that it was, you know, that I was one of the, you know, 50 that day that was sent their pitch, you see.
Yeah, so searching their personal background, knowing more about them to introduce that I did my research or I did my homework, sounds more better than a static message that's been sent to all.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Because also there was one, I remember, like, there was a moment I was getting burnt out with all of these, you know, like short kind of pitches coming, and they all sounded the same. But I remember this one guy, you know, like very edgy engineer, you know, that was in very technical nuclear, you know, background, was he's saying, you know, was saying that, hey, I'm an engineer coming from this particular school, and because I manage a lot of entrepreneurship programs, you know, he was saying that came up with this company from his program. But then it was a drink of sparkling mate drink, a sweetened drink, and the benefits of it, and how it's better than the iced teas and Coca-Cola and sodas and stuff. What was interesting was he was such a like a geek engineer and stuff, and when was listening of how they even got the, you know, they already got the product and all, I was interested even testing, and then thinking like, gosh, this, you know, engineer in nuclear and whatever, he dropped that and completely went into starting this company. So it got me interested, kind of like, okay, he's also coming from a grande école where it's very conservative. So, you know, that also parents are expecting him to be working in this like Thales or some big company, you know, heading the innovation department. And yet he dropped that all to, you know, start producing this mate drink. So I got interested to know, like, you know, what got him interested in wanting to start this company in the first place, and how he, you know, decided to completely make a turnover. And you see, so you see, again, it was like atypical. It was something a little bit different than the usual.
Great, thank you so much. Makes sense.
Okay, so we have to quit. Thank you very much for your attention, and Audra, it was awesome, as always. I really
Thank you so much. Thank you, Taryn. Thank you, Audra, so much for this amazing session.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Million
for
thanks.
interacting with
It's
me.
so
Because I'm a
valuable.
people person, so I need, you know, to have like some stuff coming from the other end.
So regards from Argentina.
Ah,
We drink
okay.
mate. We drink mate. That's why I was very interested in the mate thing.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Well, I'm in Sweden if anyone wants to know more physically.
Okay, so let's catch up as soon as. Have a very happy Easter. And,
Yeah, happy Easter, everybody. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, have a nice Easter weekend, and hopefully we won't be more locked down than we already are. I don't know how much more locked down we can be, but
I know.
but I know Spain